All right. Well, we are so excited to welcome Rachel Price and Aki Bermise of Lake Street Dive, who is getting ready to release their new album, Obviously, on March 12th through None Such Records. Thank you both for joining me today.
Pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to be here, yeah.
And so we were talking offline before. You guys are in the middle of that big nor'easter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, it's been a little while since I've been in New York during a big nor'easter, and it didn't cancel a single plan because we have no plans.
The nor'easter, it was the plan. It was the only thing we
exactly.
to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Lake Street Dive is one of our favorite artists here on the bridge. Rachel, you all came in 2016 during the Side Pony tour, and that was actually our most viewed session. I think one of the videos has like 3.5 million views on our YouTube page. So
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think it was the cover that you all did of Lola.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
big fan favorite. So, and then you also did God Awful Things with a kazoo solo, I believe.
Oh yeah, the kazoo.
Oh. Yeah, it's classic, you know.
It's controversial too.
Totally controversial.
So since your last album came out, Free Yourself Up, in 2018, a lot of the band members have had some personal milestones. Aki, of course, you joined the band full time. Rachel, you got married. Congratulations to you both.
Thank you.
Mike Calabrese, your drummer, has had 2 kids. I think I saw that he just had another child. So
he has like a
days ago.
5-day-old baby.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. And then, of course, most of you have released music with other projects, and there's been a global pandemic, if you haven't heard, and we'll get to that later.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Sorry to break it to you. But I have noticed that over the last few albums you've done, you've all felt kind of freer to dive into more meaningful issues and deeper emotions. The first single you put out, Making Do, was about the impacts of climate change. And I know that you've all supported a lot of those organizations. You do carbon offsets on your tours, and I think that's a great thing. And then the second single, Nobody's Stopping You Now, Rachel, you wrote that as a letter to your teenage self. So I'm wondering if any of these personal life changes have affected what topics you wanted to look at for this new album.
Yeah, I think for me as a songwriter, just always trying to write about my real life experience, sort of not, I've never been one to like spin tales, so it doesn't really result in a great song for me. So yeah, I wrote Nobody's Stopping You Now because I was going through my old journals from when I was like 12, 13, and 14. And I was like, who is this person? Like, I don't know this person anymore. And so I kind of wanted to talk to her and find out a little bit more about her life.
Lay down, girl, the summer's coming on. Take off your makeup and take off your shoes. Trade in a dress for something oversized and let your mind go wherever you choose. Don't try to be a woman anymore. Nobody's taught you how. Skin your knees and throw punches in the air. 'Cause nobody's stopping you now. It's okay to step away from the crowd. Nobody's stopping you now.
And I see you have a little quarantine pet friend there.
Yeah, I think my recording is going to be mostly her purring, so I'm going to get her off the table.
Okay. Aki, do you have any quarantine pets?
Yes, I also have a cat, but I usually am able to chase her out of my room before I record. Not always. She might be in here. In fact, she's a black cat. She's very good at hiding.
Okay.
Now,
So let's see here. I think I heard on a podcast from Rachel that your all's last two gigs were at Brandy Carlisle's Girls Just Wanna weekend in Mexico, and then you did the Cayamo cruise with Mavis Staples and Jeff Tweedy, and those were like your last two big like in-person gigs, right?
Yeah, that's right. I still can't believe that like a short time before this pandemic started, we were on a cruise ship.
yeah.
Right.
I feel so lucky that we didn't get stuck on that boat for a couple months.
Right. Yeah.
I have described it like that big boulder that was rolling after Indiana Jones. It
Yes.
felt like we were like, oh, let's go abroad, and then they're like, no one goes abroad, and we're like, all right, well, let's get on this cruise ship, and they're like, no one on a cruise ship. And we're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it doesn't. I don't know. Being on a cruise ship right now, it just doesn't seem like the place I would want to be.
Yeah. Ever again.
Yeah, maybe never. But since those gigs, of course, you've had to pivot your revenue streams and your ability to perform into different things, and you've put out a lot of really entertaining content, a lot of educational content, and you've been able to call attention to some of these important causes. I've been following the Lounge Around Sounds live variety hour, which has been super fun. For anybody who hasn't seen any of those, you all do songs, you do storytelling, you have special guests, and then you also donate to organizations that feed frontline workers and marginalized communities. So I'm wondering, as difficult as it is not being able to perform live, do you think that these things have kind of helped you more effectively amplify the causes that you believe in as a band?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I've often wondered to myself, with how much has happened in this last year, how it would have felt to be living the busy life of a touring musician on the road while while so much has been happening. And there has been a silver lining with the racial justice movement and just all of the things that are making people anxious and sad and this pandemic. There has been a silver lining to the fact that we can just focus on those things and raise those issues and not have to, worry so much about. It's like we can't really think too much about ourselves right now. It's like we're not working, we're not playing shows, we're not selling tickets, trying to fill concert halls, and there is something that's been nice about that. So yeah, it's given us the opportunity to amplify those causes. What else are we going to do right now?
Right. Yeah. And then another really cool thing that you all launched last summer is the virtual lessons for actual change. So that kind of started out just as the band individually giving music lessons, right? And then now it's expanded to like 35 world-class musicians who are all lending their time, and the money from the lessons goes towards 4 different organizations that are working to advance racial justice.
That's right. Yeah. Thank you.
And I am actually really excited because I just signed up to do a bass lesson with Bridget.
Oh, that's
nice.
so awesome.
Yeah. I'm a bass
She's a
player.
great teacher.
Yeah, she's like my bass idol. So I'm very excited for that.
That's fantastic.
But I'm also wondering if like these kinds of platforms have helped you be able to connect with your audience in a different way, maybe in a more personal way in some ways. I don't know.
I think that's true. I think part of it is it's so great to interact with people who are like fans, who are, probably the first people to sort of adopt this program. And normally your interaction with a fan, even on like a meet and greet line, is so brief. And here you have like 30 minutes, you talk music, maybe you talk life, and it's just a great way to interact with people. And also for those people to sort of interact with us. It's nice. It's just nice to see people, period. End of story.
Right.
So that's part of the joy of it. And then it all goes towards such a great cause. So it's kind of a win-win-win.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So Okay, Rachel, you guys have had the same lineup since 2004 up until Aki joined as a touring member in 2017. And one of my favorite things about Lake Street Dive is that you have this really vast musical vocabulary, but you also share similar musical instincts, and you have a personal camaraderie that comes through in all of your live performances and all of your content. And I know that's not an easy thing to maintain, especially when you've spent the last 16 years constantly gigging, constantly creating, constantly touring. So my question to you is, as an original member, how did you feel like Aki fit into that equation for you all, and both on a musical and a personal level?
Well, the brief answer would be wonderfully, perfectly, and magically. Magically, because it's a hard thing to find to find another musician after you've been together, I don't know, 10 years we've been together, that fits so well into the band in a way that we felt almost like we'd been stupid to not have this any earlier. We're like, wow, what have we been doing all of this time? How have we lived without it? And without it, I mean, is Aki's playing, his musicianship, and personality-wise, yeah, we just got along with him really, really well. This is always such an embarrassing moment for Aki when we have to just talk about it. But yeah, I mean, I'll keep it brief, but that's just to say it went really, really well the first tour that we did, and ever since then, it just gets better and better.
That's awesome. And Aki, I heard a podcast that you did, and correct me if I'm wrong on this. So you were formally asked to join the band while you guys were out on tour in Chicago.
That is correct.
And
yes.
so each member of the band presented you with a plastic engagement ring. Is that correct?
There was just one ring. I like the way that it's
one ring.
No, it was four
Okay.
rings. It was four
There
rings
was
in a
4
card.
rings?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
How
Oh, I
could you
forgot.
forget?
I
No.
forgot that detail. I was like, we presented 4 rings.
Yes, they were placed on my salad plate when I was distracted, and I turned around.
Wow, I
Rings,
remembered there
yes.
only being one. I'm so glad.
It was
this detail
very
has come to
strange,
light.
like rom-com style situation.
Right, because there was like a ring pop,
Yes,
right?
something like
There was like
that.
a ring
yeah.
pop. There was like
Yeah.
the kind that you get out of like a machine for
Mhm.
25 cents.
Totally. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, so you had a variety of rings.
I did. Yeah.
yeah.
I should be wearing them. I think they're all too small
You
for
should be.
any of my fingers, but they're
I believe
wonderful.
that's what you said on the podcast, though. So
I just wanna love you. I just wanna try. I know we're the subject of 1,000 prying eyes. I worry about the gossip. Do you think that we'll be fine? There ain't no way to stop it, so I won't change my mind.
Oh, I would run away with you any day if we could. But I don't think that running anywhere would do us any good. We just keep on making the same old news.
People talk about us, but what would they do without us? It's the
Same old news. I just wanna love you, but it's causing so much trouble. I guess it's the same old news. a million miles from shore.
At least until they built a tower where there wasn't one before. We just keep on making that same old news. People talk about us, but what they do without us is the same old news.
Oh, I just wanna love you, but it's getting so much about it.
It's the same
old news. Every time we kiss, I get in them start to
whisper. They know all our secrets,
yes, they do.
and they know where we've been. Where they're inside our head and they're underneath our skin,
Oh,
yeah.
but haven't you heard?
Yeah.
It's so absurd.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's a waste, but it's still a basic human urge.
To keep spreading the same old, same old, same old, same old, same old, same old.
So I guess in some ways you've gotten to have kind of an outsider's view of how the band fits together and how each voice complements the other. And I think that's a real advantage. But what flavors did you feel like you could add to the band while staying rooted in the Lake Street Dive musical universe?
That is a great question. Most of my abiding fear that first tour was like, when do I play? What should I play? And how should I play it? And so if there's any footage of that first year, you'll see me like, I'm playing, but I'm just constantly like wheeling between band members to see if anyone's smiling, is anyone frowning? Honestly, it was always smiles, which was great. So I don't know. I just tried to find a place to, there's some keyboard on the records, which I had listened to before. And so I kind of copped that. But then also the joy of playing with people is that there's options. There's, people react to things that you do. And so it was just a very easy pocket. I mean, Rachel says it was magical, but it feels like space was made for me to sink in.
Yeah. I mean,
So-
yeah, I think magical for us and maybe not from your perspective.
Oh, it was magical for me, but
what Aki's alluding to is like how little, like we just like gave him no direction, like to a fault. Like we really should have given a little bit more.
No, it
we
was
were just
great.
like, we're like, I don't know, let's just see how it goes.
Figure
it
it
was
out.
perfect.
Yeah, and Aki, I think I read that you started out kind of as an accompanist, so that's sort of the thing that you've
Oh yeah.
been able to do
Yeah.
in addition to writing your own songs and having your own
Oh,
trio.
yeah.
So, and on that note, so since the beginning of the band, all four of the members have been songwriters, and so now you have a fifth songwriter. And I know this was the first album where Aki helped write songs too, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
And so it seems like the process, your songwriting process has evolved. It's gotten a lot more collaborative over the last few albums. And I read that you all have been doing a lot more co-writes for this album. Is that right?
That's true. Yeah. This is
Mhm.
probably, the most collaborating to date.
Nice. And I believe Aki, in this other interview I read with you, it was that you said that you all kind of wrote the album while you were on tour in 2019.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. It was
So-
like on the bus, people were coming up with ideas in the green room, and then you'd email that to somebody and they would email you back more lyrics or a different harmony, and they were kind of put together that way. As we were traveling across basically the world, these things were happening.
Yeah, and that's incredible to me. I've got some experience as a touring musician, and I'm just like, where do you find, maybe not the time, because you are in a van all the time and you are waiting for the show to happen, but just being able to have that creative flow seems kind of difficult.
Yeah. I think that's where I think the co-writes really help, because we all sort of keep each other inspired and on track. So when you get, some kind of idea from someone else, that helps you sort of feel enthusiastic about writing. So it really does. It's the co-writes that kind of aid in this strange vagabond style of composition.
Yeah, absolutely. And so obviously, you worked with on obviously, I'm not just saying obviously, but on obviously you worked with Mike Elizondo as the producer, and I know Free Yourself Up was self-produced. And I read an interview with Bridget where she kind of called it a musical playground where more of yourselves were able to come through. But I'm wondering, so with Mike Elizondo, he's collaborated with Dr. Dre, Eminem, Fiona Apple, a lot of different artists. And I know that you had thought of him because it was partially a way of challenging yourself as a band. So did that work?
I think so.
And what approaches did he take as a producer to make sure your strengths as a band and as individual players came through?
Well, the main thing that he did initially was choose the songs. We had, with all of this co-writing going on, we ended up with like 30 songs in a Google Drive, and we were like, oh God. What? And I wouldn't say that there was like, do you feel lucky that there was like a pervading theme or like vibe to the songs? They were like all over the place stylistically. Yeah. So we really needed somebody to sort of put it all into perspective and pick a bunch of the songs and say like, I can make this sound like one record, which I feel he was successful in that. But Mike is also like, I think just like a master of sounds. Like we're like, what's this keyboard sound that has this vibe from this record? And he's like, oh, that's this. I can do it right now. Mm-hmm. And then he's like doing it. And he's like, we were like, what about this drum beat? How do you create this like sound? He's like, oh, that's just like this. And he's extremely technical and extremely creative. So these were all great things to bring to the table.
Mm-hmm. And so did you record it during the pandemic, or was it before?
Just under the wire. We recorded it in February of last year. Came home, week later, lockdown.
And then you haven't seen anybody since.
Exactly.
Although it looks like, so the four of you, or minus Mike Olson, McDuck, looks like the rest of you have gotten together quite a few times to do some of these lounge around.
We actually got together one time, trickery of wardrobe changes. But yes, we potted, tested, and we had one blissful weekend where we played music with each other.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I saw your Golden Girls theme song for Betty White's birthday.
Mm-hmm.
Such a great song.
Such a great song.
Killer.
And I know we could probably spend an entire hour talking about all the things you might miss from tour, but one thing I wanted to talk about specifically was this game that you all created on tour called Guess But.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And for anybody who's listening that is very curious now, Guess But is a game where somebody places a mystery object on someone's butt and sees if they can guess what it is. Yeah. So my question is, what is the weirdest object you have either placed on a butt or had placed on your own butt?
This is a great question. Well, the first thing that I first placed on a butt, which was Mike Calabrese's butt, which is how the game was invented, which I still think is one of the weirdest things to place on someone's butt, was a loaf of bread.
That's pretty weird.
And then the game was invented. Placed on my butt, I can't. I'm usually in the role of doing the placing.
Placer, okay.
Have we like actually played Guess Butt with you, Aki? Have we?
Oh yes.
Yeah, we played it on the bus with.
We did.
With Kristen Slip's parents, right?
You put a bag of peanut butter on my butt.
Yeah, a bag of peanut butter.
Bag of peanut butter, okay.
Like many jars of these.
So a lot of food items.
Yeah, well, I mean, we played it on it's like the bus, like the first, it was invented while we were in the van. So I just like looked around at the snacks and I was like, hey, Mike, what's on your butt? Like real quick. But I think your question speaks to what we truly miss, which is like those delirious moments where you've become one with tour in the sense that you're like, this makes total sense right now. Like, this is how we're going to entertain ourselves.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And kind of related to that, I think, Rachel, you did a podcast with Andy Frasco last year.
Mm-hmm.
And there was some talk about, what you're doing during quarantine, and you had said something about how friends would tell you, you're not what you do, but you disagreed because, being a singer, a performer, an entertainer, an instrumentalist, it's at the essence of who you are. And I know that as well, being a musician, and I know that you're all road dogs. You're just committed to the cause. You've been doing it for so long, and I know Augie as well. You've been a musician, session musician, playing in New York for a long time. So I guess I'm wondering, like, since you're not able to do the work in the same way, and you're not able to test songs out in live settings, does that change the way you view the job overall?
Wow, good question.
Thanks.
Yeah, Aki?
Yes, totally. Well, I mean, it's you have like a memory of being in front of people and performing, which happens exceedingly rare now, but you still have this desire to make music and to share it with people. And so I think part of coping with this time has been figuring out new ways, new avenues to be a musician, or in our case, to be a band. And so something like virtual, the Lounge Around Sounds Variety Hour, it gives us an opportunity to play music, also to be goofballs, and also to interact with fans. And so it's like a proxy of what it was, but it does help. I do think that as a musician, or I think as any artist, that what you do is very much tied into your identity. Like, that artists identify themselves as artists. So if you go and do something else, you're going to feel that pull to still be creating and sharing. So that's my answer, I think.
Yeah. I feel like one thing that I have learned is that with all of these things that we've done, the Lounge Around Sounds and various streaming concerts, and I sat down and watched a whole streaming concert of Laura Marling's the other night, and I loved it. It was so beautiful. But regardless of these things, I do truly feel there is no substitute for live music in a room. And I have decided that I am happy to know this now, that there is no substitute, even though we don't have it right now and I'm feeling the loss of it. It is also great to know that this thing that I have invested my life in, and my favorite thing to do, and like my favorite industry of just like people putting on entertainment or beautiful art in a space and creating it for people to come and see it. I'm so glad to know that there's no substitute for it, because, that's what I do and that's what I'm going to go back to doing. So it's great to know that it's like such a specific and special thing, and that it'll be there when this is all over.
Obviously, we're at the beginning of something. I don't expect you to know where it's gonna go, but I believe we might be all doing something, and I just thought maybe you should know. I've been playing out a lot of hypotheticals. but I hope we will never be apart. Hypothetically, yes, theoretically, forever. We'll see what happens, but I hope we will never be apart. Oh, hypothetically, yes, theoretically, forever. We'll see what happens, but I hope we will never be apart. Hypothetically, yes, theoretically, forever. We'll see what happens, but I hope we will never be apart. I've been writing out a lot of hypotheticals. I've been writing your name down next to mine.
I see all the possibilities in my dreams. You should really be next to me. Baby, let's not wait and see.
Yeah, it'll be back. But you're right. I mean, there's no way to replicate it, you know, even with all the live streams we've seen, and they've all been great. And in some ways you can, I think, find maybe a more direct connection to your audience in certain ways, but it's different, you know. And I know a lot of artists are able to kind of test out their songs, you know, like you just released an album and you can't go out and play those songs yet. And I know that sometimes the songs kind of take on a new life after they've gone out into the world, you know. And so it's interesting for me how artists are going to be able to live out like the life cycles of these albums.
Yeah.
It's new. It's brand new territory.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I only have one more question. So Lake Street Dive, your music, your videos, everything that you do, it sparks a lot of joy for me, and I know for a lot of other Bridge listeners. So I'm wondering, what have you all been doing over the last few months to a year? Things that you've done that have sparked joy for you.
I'm learning Spanish.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's so fun. I'm very much obsessed with Spanish. So anybody wants to call me up and have a really basic conversation in Spanish with me, I'm so into it.
We created on the tour bus my first tour character named Featherbone, who we decided is a saxophone player / detective. And I've been writing short stories about Featherbone, and that's been bringing me a ridiculous amount of joy.
Oh, I love it.
Painful.
That's awesome. I heard some of that on one of your Lounge Around Sounds shows. Very nice. Well, thanks once again, Rachel Price and Aki Burmese, for joining me today on The Bridge. Lake Street Dive's new album obviously comes out March 12th via None Such Records. We can't wait to hear it. And hopefully sooner or later, you guys can come back to Kansas City and treat us to another great show.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, can't wait.
Can't wait.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. Be safe, stay healthy, and stay warm.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Likewise.
All right, take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.